made to those who served in our merchant navy, and every year when we celebrate merchant navy memorials in Cardiff Bay and elsewhere, when you look at that list of names, you see the Somali names, you see the names of people from all around the Commonwealth and those which we have friendships with. I'll happily give way.
On the point the honourable member made, I very well remember Somali soldiers coming across from the Horn of Africa to the Aden Protectorate, and my father having the honour to command really good soldiers and decent men.
And the honourable and gallant gentleman makes a very important point, and I think we need as a country as well to recognise far more the contribution of all of those from across the Commonwealth and our friends who made the contributions and in some cases the ultimate sacrifice in conflicts throughout many generations. I wanted just to turn to a few sort of practical points in the context of this debate. I think firstly it's recognising those strong links between so many cities across the UK with Somaliland, recognising that there are many who are British Somaliland dual nationals and yet experience many difficulties in terms of travel, visas, restrictions, all sorts of things that go on, and ensuring that they have the support available to them is very difficult given the current status and situation in Somaliland. And we heard from many members of the British Somaliland community on our visit who are expressing issues about, for example, if they lose a passport or they want documentations authorised, or why we don't have a bigger presence, for example, from the British Council. Many things. I met young people who want to come and study here in the UK, who want to build links between the universities and educational institutions in Somaliland with the UK, but are often denied those opportunities. And I think we could be doing so much more on a practical level as well to support those who have that dual nationality and dual heritage. Absolutely.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way and support his point in terms of the need for the British Council to be located in Augusta. And would he agree with me that the government maybe needs to think about the funding to enable that to happen, to develop relationships in Somaliland?
Absolutely. I mean, the British Council play a key role around the world. It's been deeply concerning. Again, an issue being raised on all sides of the House about the cuts that we've seen to them. But this was an issue that was specifically raised when we were there, and I hope that our links in that area can develop. I wanted to mention the huge progress that there's been on health in particular and development. I've had the pleasure, as many have across this House, of meeting the remarkable former First Lady, former Foreign Minister Edna Adan on many occasions. And if members haven't listened to her Desert Island Discs and other fantastic interviews with her, I'd strongly encourage them to do so. One of the most remarkable women I've had the pleasure of meeting, and I had the pleasure of visiting Edna's hospital that she helped resource and establish and has helped sort of fund out of her own pocket significantly. Maternity hospital, a training hospital to improve maternal health outcomes in Somaliland. Again, remarkable work being done there, but so much more that could be done if we were to develop our friendships further and ensure that there was the support there for that. We've seen remarkable progress in education. I visited Hargeisa University, a remarkable place doing brilliant work, where the majority of students, I understand, are women, are girls. Again, exactly the sort of example that we want to be setting around the world, ensuring that young women and girls have those opportunities and are able to thrive and seize all the opportunities that should be available for them, whether that's in Somaliland or elsewhere on the global stage. I'll happily give way.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way, and he's making a very powerful contribution in a debate that's been extremely good. Does he agree with me that Somaliland does stand as a beacon of hope and actually and showing what can be achieved in that sort of situation of democracy, and actually that's part of the reason why the UK government should officially recognise it for that work that it does and the leadership it can offer within Africa?
Well, I think that the leadership and the example that Somaliland has shown is there for all to see, and it's certainly there for those who've had the pleasure as I have of visiting, and I think it's long overlooked. Actually, it's progress in so many areas. The progress made in trade and the relationships we met with many businesses there who want to expand their trading relationships with the UK, who want to expand the trading relationships with their neighbours. Indeed, that's one of the crucial driving factors behind that investment in Berbera Port by DP World, by the UK and others. Absolutely critical, not least when other trading routes may be more difficult, may have the interests of other strategic, not what I want to say opponents, but other challenging countries in the world who may have a different agenda. It's absolutely crucial that we're getting in there and supporting those trade links and supporting the development of them. The politics has already been mentioned. Significant progress in elections and democracy, the holding of multiple elections, both at the presidential, at the parliamentary level. I've met with representatives of all the parties, civil society. Not everything is perfect. But there has been significant progress over recent years, and indeed we have played as the UK a key role in supporting the practicality of elections and ensuring that they are free and fair, and also through the election observation missions, which have often had strong UK support and contingents. The security situation has been mentioned as well. I would love to see the day when a more reasonable approach is taken to the travel advice for Somaliland. There have been some improvements recently, but unfortunately some of the travel advice puts off people travelling and building those links. I do urge the FCDO to look at that again and see whether they can be more open about the travel advice to Somaliland, because in reality, it's a very safe place. It's a place that you can do business, you can do education, you can travel, and we don't want to see potential friendships and links being pushed away. The strategic location of Somaliland has been absolutely rightly raised by a number of members in the House in the debate tonight, and particularly by the Honourable Gentleman proposing the debate. I think there is a very serious concern here about the activities of opponents, whether that be Russia, China, others operating in the region. We have a strong friendship. Somaliland wants a strong friendship with the UK. This is a key strategic location. I think it would be very foolish if we didn't recognise that in terms of our global Britain strategy and our wider strategic posture around the world, not least with a place that wants to have that close friendship with us. I'll happily give way.
The Honourable Gentleman for giving way, and congratulate my right honourable friend for securing this debate tonight. And would you agree with me on this issue that he's raising specifically on the strategic placement of it, that actually it does also, if we can use our Commonwealth connections across Africa, we can also highlight that strategic importance, not just in terms of its military and diplomatic links, but also its strategic place within actually the development of the Commonwealth going forwards for the future as well?
It's been a point that's been raised with me by the Somaliland government and by members of the Somaliland community on a number of occasions, and indeed as an all-party group we previously raised the question of, for example, that even though that's not they couldn't attend as a full member of Commonwealth Summits, whether an observer status or an attendance in another capacity might be possible even now, and certainly building links through the Commonwealth and building links through other international organisations is going to be critical. As I mentioned, it was a delight to have the support of the International Parliamentary Union in terms of our APPG links, because I think there's huge opportunity there, for example, for mutual training and exchange and links between our two parliaments, and a real mutual desire to do that on both sides. And again, through the Commonwealth, that could be also key. But I wanted to end, Madam Deputy Speaker, by just re-emphasising the huge contribution that Somalilanders have made to Cardiff, that they've made to the UK, and that the huge benefits that come out of that mutual relationship of friendship and respect. I think it's a relationship that hasn't had enough attention. It's a relationship that needs far more attention, both from our government and indeed in this place. And I'm really delighted today by the voices that we've heard speaking up of friendship, of support and solidarity with Somaliland. I think that shows a very strong message to the government, and I look very much forward to hearing what the Minister has to say.
Jim Shannon.
Madam Chair, and it's an absolute pleasure to make a contribution. I often, Madam Chair, make contributions but usually interventions, and in the debate tonight I get a chance to perhaps say a wee bit more. So I want to first of all congratulate the Right Honourable Gentleman for South Staffordshire for bringing this forward. In his introduction he said many things which I totally agree with, but he mentioned the words the union of equals. I would hope that the result of this would be that very request that the Honourable Gentleman, Right Honourable Gentleman referred to would actually take place. Also, there's been much talk about the Somaliland citizens having supported the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland through their participation in wartime activities and alongside them, and that's very important. So that strong relationship is very clearly there, and I believe that our Minister hopefully will reply in a very positive response. I would wish to perhaps, Madam Chair, tonight draw the House's attention to something that concerns me. I'm Chair of the APPG of Freedom of Religious Belief, and I want to speak very quickly on that, because the Honourable Right Honourable Gentleman referred to that in some of his contributions, as others have. So I want to draw the House's attention to the situation of Christians in Somaliland. Of course, it is heartbreaking that so few Christians remain in Somaliland, having been driven out due to extreme persecution or even killed. It is estimated that only a few hundred Christians live there today, but it is impossible to know the exact number due to the secrecy that they are forced into as a result of the very divisive clan mentalities and vigilantism that pervade that country. Christians suffer ostracisation and discrimination from their wider families and the communities wherever they are discovered, and the few Christians remaining in Somaliland are forced to worship in secret for fear of attacks from extremist groups like Al-Shabaab, that the Right Honourable Gentleman referred to in his contribution, propagates anti-Christian ideology and threatens converts to Christianity with execution upon discovery. The women in Somaliland are in many cases under threat. The situation is even worse for those who are discovered to be Christians, fearing rape, forced marriage, or being stoned to death. So I would hope that tonight's debate will illustrate and raise awareness about those things, and perhaps maybe in the requests that we're making, these things can be addressed, because I think it's central, and I believe it's central, and our government has made it central in relation to the ministers they've appointed, that when it comes to foreign policy, that we have a particular focus upon religious persecution and the persecution of ethnic minorities and the issues of human rights. So those are key to where I am. So I would make a plea to my Minister and to government for those improvements and those things to be central to any steps forward, which we all, I believe, in this House tonight wish to see. I don't have in my constituency any people that I'm aware of from Somaliland, but it doesn't make my contribution, Madam Deputy Speaker, any less of a support for what the Right Honourable Gentleman has said, and to those who have, like the Honourable Gentleman who spoke just before me, who very clearly has a very strong community. While political factors are undoubtedly at play in this conflict, the religious motivation for attacks in this region cannot and should not be denied, with Christians suffering the worst of this persecution. So I wish, and we wish in this House, and all the contributions have said it very clearly, we wish to help Somaliland economically. But I do feel it's central to any agreement there must be the human rights guarantees that we wish to see, and the religious freedom that we wish to see. So if we can help, and we do want that to happen, and we should help, and we must help. And others have referred to the democratic process, to the education opportunities that quite clearly we can build upon. The jobs and a strong legal structure, improvements to the health through the COVID vaccines, which the Right Honourable Gentleman referred to. There's been much talk of history, the history that unites us, but today I believe that we also, and I think it's really important when we look back in history, and I love history, Madam Deputy Speaker. It's always been probably one of my few subjects that I probably enjoyed at school and did very well at. But I believe that we also must now, through this debate, look to the future. The UK government stated that it will not formally recognise Somaliland as a sovereign state until they initiate a process to do so with the federal government of Somalia. But human rights issues and religious liberty needs to improve, and it must change. So with that, I do support and agree that it's important that the UK maintains diplomatic relations and a supportive presence in Hargeisa through this process to ensure that there is not a breakdown in relations between Somaliland and other African countries. Again, I thank the Right Honourable Member for South Staffordshire for bringing this matter to the House and the adjournment debate, which has benefited from a large number of Right Honourable and Honourable Members who all collectively want the best for Somaliland. I believe the Minister wants the best for Somaliland as well, and its people, and that is what we're trying to achieve. Somaliland needs our help. Perhaps this debate tonight has been the opportunity to do just that, and let's not be found wanting. Tonight the time has arrived, and I believe the contribution of all those who spoke tonight is an indication of our request for our government, our Minister, to do well for them. Thank you so much.
Kerry McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I only intend to, well, I didn't intend to speak at all, but I'm glad to have the opportunity to say a few words. And I do want to start by congratulating the Right Honourable Member for South Staffordshire for securing this debate today. When I was first elected in 2005, well, I was only selected as the candidate for Bristol East about 10 weeks before polling day, and during that very short election campaign, I was approached by people from the Bristol Somaliland community. First that I even heard of Somaliland, and let's say by the time I came into this place I was very much a firm supporter of the need for recognition. And the Honourable Member for Cardiff South and Penarth, his predecessor, who's already paid tribute to, Alan Michael, somehow this had reached him on the grapevine, and I remember him accosting me in the division lobby, I think on my first vote here, and saying we need to campaign on Somaliland. And he was on the front bench at the time, but a year later in 2006 we set up the all-party group, and I'm pleased to have been an officer I think pretty much ever since then. And I do congratulate the current Honourable Member for Cardiff South and Penarth for just being the mainstay of the group and organising all our meetings, and just being such an expert and a source of information on what's going on there. As has already been said, Somaliland is a beacon of democracy not just in the Horn of Africa, but in Africa. The fact that it has managed to hold peaceful elections, I think the Right Honourable Member referred to the election in 2003, where the presidency changed hands by 80 votes, and I think if proportionately an 80 vote, whatever the equivalent of an 80 vote majority was in the American election, if Donald Trump had lost by that amount, I don't think we'd ever have heard the end of it. What was slightly disappointing about the most recent elections was that although it was yet another peaceful handover, there's still quite a lot of progress that needs to be made on female representation. There was one woman MP, but now there's 0 out of the 82 elected MPs, so there's also low turnout in some areas. So I would hope that through Westminster Foundation for Democracy or other mechanisms we have, we can do a bit more work on that front. I would join my honourable friend in paying tribute to Edna. I too have visited the hospital in Hargeisa. She's a formidable woman, and indeed there are many formidable women that I've met that have been campaigning on issues like FGM, on issues like maternal health services, and indeed for recognition for Somaliland. The final point I just want to make, I mean, other than I would echo what my honourable friend said about just the sheer economic opportunities that would be available if we recognised Somaliland. I've heard there's amazing scuba diving on the north coast by Berbera, and the fact that it could be opened up as a peaceful tourist destination if it wasn't associated with Somalia, but also many other economic avenues that could be explored. And I share the concerns of people that are worried about Chinese influence if we don't step in. But the main thing I want to say though is it is clear that Somaliland is an independent country. It has functioned as such since 1991. It had established itself, albeit for a very short time before it went into partnership with Somalia. It established itself as a post-colonial independent country. And what is really frustrating, this message that the UK will recognise Somaliland, but we want to be second to do so. And sometimes there's a bit of concern about being seen as too colonialist, and it's rather patronising that we are the ones that grant nationhood on the country. But I remember when Mark Malloch-Brown was a very good Minister for Africa in Gordon Brown's government, and he really engaged with the APPG on Somaliland, and I really thought we were getting somewhere. I really thought, he'd had conversations with various African countries, the African Union. It looked like we were almost there in terms of that recognition status. But the last we've heard, I think the current Minister for Africa said in November 2021, our policy remains it's for Somaliland and the federal government of Somalia to decide their future. Well, it's nothing to do with the federal government.
the Honourable Lady to be giving way. I think she raises a really important point, because you're effectively giving the final say, the decision-making power, to the country that doesn't have free and fair elections, to the country that doesn't have judicial and legal systems, that doesn't educate boys and girls. We're effectively rewarding poor behaviour and actually being harsher on those who actually demonstrate the types of behaviour and the types of system that we really want to encourage.
I mean, that was exactly my point. It is nothing to do with the federal government of Somalia. The future of Somaliland should not be in their hands, and we need to be brave. We need to step up to the plate. Either the Minister needs to find a country that will go first so that we can go second. I think some of the Scandinavian countries have talked about it. I think Canada's talked about it. As I said, some African countries have done that. But if we don't do that, we will find that we're here in another 10 years' time, and they'll be celebrating their 40th anniversary of de facto independence, but not actually recognition. So I'll finish with a plea to the Minister. Will he actually step up? And if we won't be the first, can he find someone who will be?
Minister Chris Heaton-Harris.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I'm very grateful to my right honourable friend, the member for South Staffordshire, for securing this debate, and have learnt of his long-standing and enthusiastic engagement on Somaliland. And I'm afraid, probably like so often in the past, I feel I might well disappoint him a tiny bit today, but I will try and answer many of the points that he has made. And I'm also grateful for what has genuinely been a pleasure of a debate to listen to, for all honourable and right honourable members for their contributions, from Bethel, Green and Bow, Cardiff South and Penarth, my right honourable friend from Elmet and Rothwell, right honourable friend for Sutton Coldfield, right honourable friend for South Swindon, the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Select Committee, Liverpool Riverside, Brent North, Wolverhampton South West, Worley, my right honourable friend for Glamorgan, my honourable friend for Beckenham, Sheffield Central, Newport West, Bury North, Nottingham South and North West Durham, and the other speech contributions all demonstrate the depth of passion there is for Somaliland. And many members described how their constituents from Somaliland are so active in such a positive way in their constituencies, and it's I think it's a testament and a tribute to them for such a positive contribution being made. My right honourable friend detailed Somaliland's proud links and friendship with the UK, and I would like to think what he detailed was absolutely correct. Now, my honourable friend, the Minister for Africa, would have been delighted to take part in this debate, but she is currently visiting East Africa at this point in time. So it's my pleasure as Minister for Europe, in post for less than a month, to respond on behalf of the government. Now, Somaliland has a remarkable and unique story, and its people are rightly proud of their homeland and its achievements. Our relationship with Somaliland dates back to at least the 19th century, when a number of seafarers and merchants settled in Britain, and then later the UK established a protectorate. The honourable gentleman for Cardiff South and Penarth mentioned not just the contributions of people from Somaliland to his city, the city that he represents, into the United Kingdom, but the deep links they have formed and communities they have formed across Cardiff and beyond. And indeed, obviously, quite rightly mentioned his predecessor and his role in establishing the all-party group in this place and the interest that has grown from it. Today we actually do enjoy a really close partnership with Somaliland. We're the only Western country with a permanent office in Hargeisa, through which we engage with the Somaliland government on a range of issues, from trade and investment to climate change and development. The Somaliland authorities also have an office in London, and we have regular contact with their UK representative and his team. The government understands the strength of feeling towards Somaliland and the interest which obviously has been demonstrated in this chamber today around the issue of recognition. In recent years, Somaliland has made great strides towards an inclusive democratic process, and this forms the bedrock of its stability, detailed in some way by the contribution by the Honourable Lady for Bristol East and a number of other honourable members. Last May we saw successful local and parliamentary elections. I'm glad to say that the UK was the largest donor to that process, including funding a mission to observe the elections.
Would the honourable gentleman give way?
I'd happily give way to my right honourable friend.
Right honourable friend giving way. I wonder if he could tell the House as to what he thinks are the defining characteristics of what he would describe as a nation state.
I'd be delighted to tell the House, but not at this point in time, because I'm going to continue my contribution. But if you want me to come to that point, I shall happily come to that point, but possibly later in my speech. It is now important to ensure that the presidential elections and reforms of the upper house of Parliament go ahead as planned. In a region where democratic transitions are not always the case, Somaliland, as detailed by many honourable and right honourable members, has demonstrated that one person, one vote elections are possible and that inclusive democratic processes can be achieved. And I did hear the salient and wise contribution on religious freedom from the honourable gentleman for Strangford, and I thank him for that contribution. Somaliland is also making great progress in trade and investment. The development of Berbera is the most notable example. By 2035, trade through there could support more than 50,000 jobs in Somaliland. We've also forged a partnership with Dubai Ports World to invest in logistics facilities along the Berbera corridor, which runs from the coast of Ethiopia. These investments have the potential to drive economic growth and boost stability across the Horn of Africa. Again, these are hugely positive developments, and again, we are proud to be playing our part. British International Investment, the UK's development finance body, is investing in the port with Dubai Ports World as part of a $1.72 billion investment into 3 ports in Africa. And we are using official development assistance to construct a new road bypassing Hargeisa. That means journeys past the city will take hopefully just 30 minutes. In just 1 second, instead of up to 12 hours due to current congestion. Not only will these investments boost prosperity, they will bring greater regional integration, which will support peace and stability.
I thank my right honourable friend for giving way, and I think he raises a very interesting point about the fact that the UK government has felt the ability to invest in the Port of Berbera and also in the infrastructure of Somaliland. I wonder if he could sort of maybe come to the point of actually saying to the House as to whether he thinks such a level of investment would have been able to be done in Somalia, and I think the answer would be no because of the security implications, and I wonder if he could lay out to the House what are, in his view, the defining characteristics of a nation state, and we could then maybe he could comment as to whether he thinks Somaliland correspond to any of those defining characteristics.
I thank my right honourable friend for his contribution, and I was going to come on obviously to the point of security immediately, because we've also collaborated on security. The UK has supported training on human rights for Somaliland police and security services, and have contributed to 20 years of work on mine clearance. Happily, we expect Somaliland to be declared mine-free in the near future. Somaliland... I'll give way another time to my right honourable friend.
I thank my right honourable friend. I just wonder if he would able to, as in the spirit of debate, as of course which this chamber is for, if he'd able to respond to either of the 2 previous questions he had answered as to whether he thinks it would be likely that the British government would have been able to make the investment in Somalia as they have done in Somaliland, and also whether he could set out what he believes the defining characteristics of the nation state, both of which I think he should be able to respond to as a minister.
I thank my right honourable friend for his contribution yet again, and as he asked me a question that he then answered in the same question, I will continue with my speech. Somaliland has also made strong progress in development, which we have been proud to support. Education, particularly for girls, is a priority, as it is across all of our work. Our Somali Girls Education Programme has reached over 13,000 girls in Somaliland to support their learning and transition from primary to secondary school, a point that I know my colleague from Bury North has well noted. Through the Global Partnership for Education, the United Kingdom has supported the development of Somaliland National College for Education and trained nearly 2,200 teachers. Sadly, climate change is having an increasing impact on Somaliland and the wider region, and we are very concerned about the current drought, which has resulted in acute water shortages and reduced food security, particularly for 800,000 people living in rural areas. Early action is essential, and the UK is developing a package of measures to address the drought. We are also working with international partners to ensure additional funding is made available as soon as possible. Now, the strength of the partnership between the United Kingdom and Somaliland is clear, but I know that sovereignty remains at the top of the agenda for many people from Somaliland. So, I'd like to address that question. I acknowledged earlier the strength of feeling around this issue. It is one of real importance to people in the region and in diaspora communities around the world, and there are a range of views on the subject. Strong convictions exist on all sides of this debate, and in part this reflects the complex and at times painful history that has followed the brief independence in June 1960 of what had been British Somaliland. The United Kingdom government's position on this matter has been consistent, and it will not come as a surprise to my right honourable friend, the member for South Staffordshire, as it is exactly the same as it was when he was in government. We value the close and productive relationship with Somaliland, but in line with the rest of the international community, we do not recognise it as an independent state. We firmly believe that it is for Somaliland and the federal government of Somalia to decide their future. It is for neighbours in the region to take the lead in recognising any new arrangements. One second. Happily could wait to the end.
I'm grateful to him for giving way, and I just wanted to draw a parallel to the country I was born in, Bangladesh. And the UK government, then government, did take a leadership role and supported the right to self-determination of the country I was born in the war of independence between Pakistan and Bangladesh. It didn't say that Pakistan should be determining the future of the independence of what became Bangladesh. Does he not see how ridiculous that position is that he's taking?
No, I don't, and I believe that it is completely correct for neighbours in the region to take a lead in recognising any new arrangements. I happily give way to my right honourable friend.
The generosity of my right honourable friend. And, you know, if we take the position that he's espousing it for dispatch boxes, that he wants there to be discussions between Somaliland and the Federal Republic of Somalia, and that's something that people have engaged with extensively for many, many years. Doesn't he also recognise that the fact that, you know, it cannot be the situation where the Federal Republic of Somalia can have a veto over the independence, and actually Britain does have a role in convening these discussions, leading these discussions, especially as the UN penholder on Somaliland and Somalia?
My right honourable friend makes a proper point in this area, as he always does. But I'm afraid to say that, you know, the UK government position on this matter has been consistent, and was consistent in the time that he was within government, and remains the same. That we have long encouraged dialogue between the authorities in Mogadishu and Hargeisa on their future relationship, and we continue to do so. I'll happily wait to my right honourable friend.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker, and I thank my right honourable friend for allowing me to give way. A nation state, according to me, is some grouping of people that all speak roughly the same language and have a similar heritage. And the actual truth of the matter is that they become a nation state when people recognise them. And I don't think it's fair that Somaliland only becomes a nation state if the people who are traditionally against them, around them, agree to that. I think we could take the lead, and I plead with my right honourable friend, a very good friend, to put it back to the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office that actually we should be changing our attitude on that.
I thank my right honourable friend for his point and indeed the way, the constructive manner in which he put it. And I think my colleagues in the FCDO will doubtless be watching this debate and the very positive nature about it and the support for it that has gone on. And I very much... at all. I believe I have been giving way fairly regularly, and yes, of course I have.
If my right honourable friend could inform the House as to when the policy on Somaliland was actually last reviewed, and as to how extensive that review of policy was.
As Minister for Europe, I'm afraid I cannot give the honourable gentleman that information, but I would happily write to him. And I was going to... Yes, of course, I happily give way to him.
It's been very, very generous. On a practical point, following the interventions that have been made, he's well aware that there is huge political instability in the Federal Republic of Somalia at the moment, including within their government, huge chaos, infighting, and many other problems going on. Who should the Somaliland government be having discussions with? This is a practical question that they have certainly raised with me, given the chaos that we've seen in Mogadishu in recent months.
I thank the honourable gentleman for his point, and the answer is with its neighbours, with the African Union, and those that are properly interested, and indeed there is a representative body in this country which we do engage with, and those conversations should obviously continue through those appropriate routes. Now, I do understand. My right honourable friend will notice that I did mention that I am a politician, and I do understand that this position obviously cannot please all parties, and I recognise that the supporters of Somaliland independence will continue, quite rightly, to make their case. But let me conclude by assuring the House that whilst we believe that it is for Somaliland and the federal government...
Order. Only temporarily.
I beg to move that this House do now adjourn.
The question is, this House do now adjourn again. Minister Chris Heaton-Harris.
My right honourable friend and I will remember the happy days in the Whip's office where interesting procedures of the House do step in every now and again. But I was hopefully drawing to a conclusion by assuring the House that whilst we believe it is for Somaliland and the federal government of Somalia to decide their future, we do remain committed to a close and productive partnership. We will continue to support the Hargeisa authorities and the people of Somaliland on their democratic journey, and we'll do this by investing in Somaliland in pursuit of trade and prosperity, by building security for all Somalilanders, and by supporting development and resilience to the impact of climate change. Once again, I'd like to thank all members for their contributions to this excellent debate, which I truly have enjoyed, and I look forward to having similar debates in the near future.
Question is that this House do now adjourn. As well as that opinion, say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. Order. Order.
The proceeding has ended. The proceeding